recently, there is a report that has come out, according to Laura Shin with her new book, that they have identified who they believe is part of the $11 billion hack of Ether back from the DAO. Now, most people know this story, that Ethereum was chugging along. There was a DAO. That DAO was hacked. And in order to actually try to silence or mitigate that risk, what Ethereum did is they forked and they created Ethereum, of what you know today, and Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic being the old chain, Ethereum being the new chain. But now Laura Shin, her book, and a number of her sources, they claim to have identified one of the people behind that hack. It's an Austrian programmer and a former founder of a crypto company, I guess. Now, let's see here. A lot of details to go through. The DAO was basically just a decentralized venture fund, right? It raised $139 million in Ether at the time of its crowd sale in 2016. And it was the most successful crowd sale to date at that point. Weeks later, the hacker siphoned 31% of the ETH out of the DAO, which was 3.64 million total, or about 5% of all ETH that was outstanding at the time. And they put it into a new DAO. Now, there's a guy, Toby Hoynish, 36-year-old programmer who grew up in Austria and was living in Singapore at the time of the hack, who has reportedly been identified as the hacker. Now, he denies this, and Laura Shin, I guess, reached out to him after he denied it and tried to get more information from him. He stopped responding, etc. So we've got a chart here that shows kind of a timeline of events. And what you can see is the DAO sale starts in, April, May of 2016. The crowd sale ends at the end of May. There's the DAO hack, and then you get the hard fork in July. And then from there, you get Ethereum Classic and you get ETH. Now, the reason why this is interesting is obviously the value of Ether has continued to go up incredibly high. And so what was stolen today would be worth about $11 billion. At the time, it was not worth $11 billion. Second is that from what we can tell, there has been no court case. Nobody has been proven to do this. There's no admittance of guilt or anything. What we have is a journalist who is pointing and saying, you did it. They have sources. They have some evidence in terms of being able to use some of the analytics tools, chain analysis, etc. And so they believe that this is the person who did it. But there is no guarantee of it. And so this to me is one of those like slippery slopes, right? Is obviously we want journalists to be doing the work in order to help break open cases like this, to do journalism, right, etc. At the same time, though, is this guy, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, presume that he did not do it. He said he didn't do it. So let's just say, for example, in a hypothetical situation that he did not do it. Imagine having your name drugged through the mainstream media as being the hacker of $11 billion and not having the $11 billion, not having done it, and having no way to clear your name, right? In the sense of in the mainstream press. Pretty crazy stuff. And so I think that this is one of those situations where like we don't want to discourage journalists from doing their job. The evidence, again, from what I've read already this morning, seems to be fairly compelling. But at the same time, there's this balance between like people should be innocent until proven guilty. And when we put their names out into the public arena, it creates a scenario where I think folks say, damn, in the court of public opinion, that person's guilty. Like maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But will we ever actually get, if he didn't do it, will we ever get that known in public as much as it's known that, he's accused of doing it?
Yeah, that sucks, right? Because if he didn't do it, one, he doesn't have the money. So, and two, his name was basically
Would that be okay if he did it and had the money?
No, but I mean, if he didn't, look, I'm not a judge, jury. I know a little bit about this case from articles and online, but I haven't seen both facts laid out and their arguments together. But look, if he did it, he's got $11 billion. I wouldn't be showing up in court if I had $11 billion. But yeah, look, his name got dragged through the mud, right? And I hope that this is figured out. I think it's interesting that he basically stole 5% of all ETH outstanding at the time. Ethereum was around $20. Obviously now it sits around $4,000. So it's a very big increase in price. But yeah, look, he moved it around. It seems to be a lot of evidence pointing to that he did it. Obviously, he's saying he did not do it. And I guess the courts will decide if this ever goes that direction.
So I think that a huge piece of this is the public opinion, right, which we talked about. Two, though, is a lot of people that now are showing up to the cryptocurrency industry, they don't know about this hard fork that actually created Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. It's one of the reasons why a lot of Bitcoiners look at the Ethereum kind of ecosystem and they have questions, right? Or they're less bullish on it than maybe they were before. And the whole idea was this was some kind of centralized decision making that occurred here to actually go ahead, create the hard fork, to essentially try to roll back the chain so that you could mitigate this theft. And so the thought process is like, are they just going to play favorites over when to do this and when not, right? If all of a sudden John stole 1 ETH from me, why don't they roll back the chain, or why don't they go ahead and create a hard fork so I get my 1 ETH back, right? Oh, is it because it's not enough money? Is it because the community was involved? Like there's a bunch of stuff in there that ends up being very, very different than I think the way that the Bitcoin community approaches it. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean necessarily that the Bitcoin community is right, but it's important to understand why. Now, I have my own personal views, and I tend to think that the kind of variable decision making around when to roll back or when to hard fork is probably not great for the long-term sustainability of the chain. Ultimately, if you have an immutable ledger, you want it to be immutable. You want it to not be at the whim of a group of people who can say, hey, we don't like a situation that happened. Let's make a difference here. We saw in the past, other people have suggested that we could do that with Bitcoin, and they very quickly, the community kind of rose up and said, no, absolutely not. That's not what we do here. And so I think that there's some uniqueness to the situation, not just the headlines, which are, there was money stolen and it's grown to be a lot of money, but also there was an important part of history around Ethereum, blockchains themselves, hard forks, how to deal with nefarious actors, what constitutes people to step in and try to advocate for some sort of change to the technical nature of the blockchain, what would not constitute that, et cetera. And so there's a lot of things you can learn. So if you want, you should go read the articles, you should go read the book. I think that a lot of folks will learn quite a bit from that situation.